Ever wonder why governments can't just print more money to solve their financial woes? Welcome to the world of financial constraints on government spending. At first glance, it might seem like a government that issues its own currency would have an unlimited ability to spend. After all, couldn't it just print more money whenever it needs to? Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, the reality is much more complex. In truth, a currency-issuing government does not face any financial constraints on spending in its own currency. It can never run out of money in the same way a household or business can. It doesn't need to tax or borrow in order to spend. It can simply create more of its own currency. But that doesn't mean it can spend without limit. The real constraints on government spending are not financial, but real and inflationary. If a government spends more than the economy can produce, it will create inflation. If it spends less, it can leave resources idle and underutilized. This is where the concept of output capacity enters the picture. Output capacity refers to the maximum sustainable amount of goods and services an economy can produce. If the economy is operating below its output capacity, a government can run deficits to support incomes and stimulate demand without causing inflation. The focus should not be on financial ratios, but on employing idle resources and achieving full employment. However, not all governments enjoy this kind of monetary sovereignty. Take, for example, the nations of the Eurozone. These countries do not issue their own currencies, but use a common currency, the euro. This means they face financial constraints on spending, just like a household or business. They have to finance their spending through taxes or borrowing, and if they spend too much, they can run out of money. In addition to these financial constraints, they also face real resource constraints. To sum up, the key points to understand about government spending are these. Currency-issuing governments face no financial constraints on spending in their own currency, but are limited by real resources and inflation. When output is below capacity, deficits can be used to support incomes without causing inflation. The focus should be on using idle resources, not financial ratios. And finally, nations without monetary sovereignty, like those in the Eurozone, face both financial constraints and real resource constraints on spending. In the world of finance, nothing is as simple as it seems. Even something as fundamental as government spending is subject to a complex web of constraints and considerations. But understanding these concepts is key to making sense of economic policy and the world of finance.